It's good morning, Paul Flavel. Thank you for joining us here at Yellow Shelf.
Good morning, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yay, Paul, your book, John Martin's. This is an iconic department store book. What do we need to know? Tell the Yellow Shelf audience all about your stunning book.
Yeah, well, for so many people outside of South Australia, they probably don't know what John Martin's is unless they live there and they move. But it's a non-fiction book that tells the account from the very beginning of this department store, John Martin's, in 1866, all the way to the end. And there's little, I call them sort of vignettes of little stories, whether it's from the lift ladies, or from the shop floor, the boardroom, the dramas, but also as the story is progressing on. So you could read it as a book, or it could live on your coffee table.
Yeah, and Paul, we have a mutual connection in Andrea who said to me I needed to check out your book. The visual on the front is stunning. And yes, I am someone who never visited. Well, I guess they call it
Yeah,
Johnny's, don't they? But I've never
yeah,
visited the department store. But I had my own reflection upon stores that I'd visited in my my town or my grandparents had taken me to, and those same
yeah,
sort of feelings of, those big department stores, everything on multiple floors. So yeah, I haven't been to
yeah,
Johnny's, but it took me on a journey, your book. And it's
yeah,
interesting. Here's a store that was around what 130 odd years,
yeah, yeah,
closed in the late 90s. And from what I read, what I understand, and you correct me if I'm wrong, people were heartbroken that this store was closing.
yeah. Like the feelings are still really strong. It's so incredible. It's so hard to explain outside of people who live through it. This
Yeah.
still really resonates with people in South Australia. Like when you mention John Martin, this is actually the catalyst of the book. When you mention John Martin's to someone over 40, usually in Adelaide, their eyes light up
Mhm.
and there's instant nostalgia. Everyone wants to tell you a story. I worked there, my auntie worked there, and that, like, I thought I have to capture this. Like,
Yeah,
why is this store so special? But I live in Melbourne, and there was department stores here that closed. And when you mention them, they don't get the same reaction. And it's like,
yeah,
what is it about this department store? And Adelaide people are so nostalgic.
yeah,
They love to live in the past, and it's great for me if you want to sell a book on it.
yeah.
But they sort of have been reveling in that feeling that my book has thankfully created.
Yeah. And so you've just touched on, I guess, what inspired you to write the book. But I'd love you to tell us a bit about you, Paul, a bit about your experiences with nostalgia and department stores. What do you want to share?
Yeah, well, I grew up with a really snobby grandma who believed that everything should really come from David Jones. And
Yeah.
I've said this before in interviews and stuff, but she believed her cat only ate cat food from David Jones when I had a food hall. Um, and, at the time, I didn't really think anything of it. But hey, so we spent a lot of Saturday mornings going to Rundle Mall because I grew up in the Adelaide Hills and we were a Rundle Mall family.
Yeah.
And that was a time when there was so many department stores, and I there was just a feeling of being swept up in that. And as time went on, I understood that John Martin's was special to my family, but also when you went in there, there was a really strong vibe, and that obviously stayed with me after it closed. But then I started in retail. I'm always going to work in retail. I was like, yep, I want to work in retail. And a lot of people look down on that. Or what? That's not a real career when you're getting to have a real job. But I always saw it as a real job, and I've only ever worked out of retail once from a mental health organisation.
Yeah.
And after 2.5 years there, I was like, I'm going back to retail where I love. So for me, I sort of, and I've worked for David Jones, and that really filled my cup of department stores. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's just something about retail that resonates with me.
Yeah. And is it true that, obviously Johnny's, the department store, or John Martin's closed, the site was demolished, and now there's a
Yeah.
David Jones in Rundle Street Mall?
Yeah, so yeah, it closed in 1998 after years of speculation. We're not going to close it, we won't touch it. And then bits and pieces started to be shut down till the point where it was one store out of the five. And yeah, so it was closed in 1998, and there was thousands of people on the last day. And the thing that always struck me was that when they closed the doors, there was people waving goodbye outside.
Oh,
And the days that followed, people put flowers against the doors and
wow.
notes like someone had died.
Yeah.
Um, so I've never heard that about a company before.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, Paul, tell us where we'll have people watching all around the world. That's why I wanted to
yeah,
share when I looked at your book. It actually took me to my childhood, to my grandmother
yeah,
taking me to the food court in a multi-story department store. So it resonated with me, even though I haven't been there. So point us in the direction. How do
yeah,
we connect with you? How do we sort of get our eyes on this book? I see there's
yeah.
multiple places you can get it.
Yeah, so the easiest way, well, if you live in Adelaide, there's many bookstores that
Yeah.
carry it, but probably the easiest way outside of there is it's available on Amazon.
Yes.
And it's also available directly from me, so you can get signed copies at
Right.
johnmartinsbook.com.
Yes.
And yes, that's probably the easiest way to access it.
Fabulous. Well, I'll put those details in the show notes to make it easy. Yeah, it's a really stunning visual book that takes you on a journey, obviously a journey about John Martin's, but it also, yeah, it definitely took me on a journey through me, of my nostalgia as well. So well done, Paul.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, like, to people who have no idea about it, I wouldn't let that shy away. I think everyone has some sort of connection to a store as they're growing up. And, I've tried to make it as general also as possible to pick
Yeah.
up on those hints of nostalgia. You don't need to know about John Martin's or Adelaide to enjoy the story. It's very ladies in black. Mr. Selfridge, bits of that as well. So, and they're popular things that people resonate with as well. So,
Yeah.
I hope that connects with your
Yeah.
audience.
Definitely, definitely. Good luck with it all, Paul. I know the book's out
Thank
already, so
you.
people can get it.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
Yeah.
and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.